Welcome back, all my 40k fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation to bring you the list that will be taking on Lane and his Iron Hands later on this evening. Pariah Nexus, here we go. So, new cards, new season, new armies, new points, some new rules, all this fun stuff. What better way to do is to start it off with one of the same armies that I started strong off with this edition, and that is Dreadknights. I wanted to showcase as many of the cards as we could, the tactical cards. And I've been often thinking about Dreadknights and how much board control they have. So today, and for this game, I'm going to be playing my Dreadknights, except this list has no Dreadknights in it at all. Dreadknights are a very, very hot hand. They're still very strong, even after the point increase, which makes them an easy include for a strong Dreadknight build. But initially, when the edition started off, one of the first things that I felt with the Dreadknight army was how well they could play tactical mission cards because of how they could get around the field, playing Dreadknight MSU. So I'm bringing that back. I want to try this. This is a last minute thought of, you know what? We got Pariah Nexus. We're talking new cards. We're talking new season. So I want to showcase all of that, all the new cards that we just talked about with the Dreadknights. So this list is built very, very much so to play the secondary game. And, well, let's introduce you to the contenders in this matchup. Here we go. Now, there are some things that are a little weird, a little wonky as far as some of the stuff that's painted, not painted, and set up. But for the most part, this is all in a good position and ready to go. There's definitely a couple of things that could use some work, some guys that need some basing and stuff like that. But again, when we go back over the competitive side of things, for the most part, I'll probably be bringing in more Dreadknights than this. If this ends up being a diamond in the rough, I guess you could say, that for an army, then yeah, I got some work to do, but not that much, just a little bit. All right, I've talked about that. Hopefully you forgive me on it. It looks better than some of the armies working on the orcs. But let's talk about what the army's got in it. So first and foremost, we are still bringing the 10-man brick of Terminators, led by a Grand Master. So now in out of Leviathan and into Pariah Nexus, now we are once again able to zero out any stratagem. Of course, the Grand Master can still only do it once per game, but this means that we could interrupt for free. That's pretty big when it's a 2 command point strat. The big part about these guys is their objective control 3. The Grandmaster will still have first of the fray, so these guys can deep strike on turn 1. This has been a very, very strong, versatile unit that I've got a lot of skill behind. So I want to bring these guys again. And with this being an army to base off of tactical objectives, this is also a unit that can do very well into some of the secret missions we talked about, since the Grandmaster is my Warlord, and the Terminators are a battle line unit. Big theme of this army is I do have a lot of battle line units. So in aspects of different missions that can do battle line specialties, this army plays well with that factor. The Terminator squad will have the standard banner holder, the apothecary, and it's going to be with 2 psi cannons. If I don't mention it, every unit that can take a psi cannon has a psi cannon in it, because mostly that's the only higher damage, high strength weapons that I could really field for the style and build that I'm bringing. Next up, we'll stick with the characters and the Terminators for that matter. We also have a 5-man of Terminators. This will have now this one's a little messy. We will have an apothecary. He's going to be the guy with the hammer. And there is a banner who needs a better base. And we have a psi cannon, which is actually in there in a psi cannon. So we have all the models. They just need some love. And they're going to be led by a librarian. So the librarian will still be able to give me some nice punch. That psychic Vortex of Doom is still very strong. So it's still going to be a very strong play. Initially, I was thinking about taking 2 of them to bounce around the field. But given the fact of how I'm doing this list and what I'm trying to do with this list, I reared back to just 1. Plus, they do cost quite a bit at 120 points. So we have the one that's going to lead the squad, Terminator, and he is going to have the Sigil of Exigence. So when these guys get shot at, they can bounce away 1 time. It's going to be good versatility, good board coverage. And again, with the theme of this list being secondaries, that's where we're going to try and run away the board on, and as well be able to play into the primary game with some of the stratagems to be able to drop within 3 inches. And again, just picking up my army and moving it around as I feel fit. Next up, we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Grey Knight Strike squads. So Grey Knight Strike are very interesting. I think they get overshadowed sometime in my list by the Terminators, and I do like them. I don't think there's any problem with them. They just get overshadowed in a lot of lists. So I'm looking forward to bringing 4 or 5-man squads of them. Now, I could take a 10-man for stratagem use, but that's not going to be the role. Again, we're playing on secondaries. So the MSU, multiple small units, is very, very important. So 2 of the 5-mans in this picture, my beautifully unpainted Rhino, is going to be, 2 of them are going to be inside of the Rhino. Now, Strike have Scout. It is a dedicated transport. Everything's good. I can Scout move the transport because all models inside have the Scout move. Remember, Scout is one of the abilities that still does allow you to move a unit after determining who goes first, because it's not a redeploy, it is a movement. On top of that, Scout is a rule that does specifically say all models in the transport would have to have Scout to Scout move it. So later units that I see, I know some of them are, well, why not slap one of these in there? There's a reason. There's a reason why. Now, and there is an option as well with this Rhino for being able to put our stuff in it, but initially in this game, we're going to start off with the Strike. Now, we can put 2 of the Strike in Deep Strike. I'll probably start 1 on the board to be able to stick in my home field objective and to be able to Scout move the Rhinos to get that into a position for moving on later into the game and start sticking other objectives, which is another big thing with the Strike. These guys are able to bounce around the field, sticking an objective. I often call these guys the little kid running in and out of the room, turning on light switches and just leaving. And you have to play parent and go and chase these guys down and constantly turn off the light switch. Being the fact that they also have that 2-up save is very, 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 very nice, so that these guys are just extra resilient when you're trying to get shots on them and you're not able to get great angles because they're hiding behind walls and such. Again, all these squads will have side cannons. And last is going to be 3 squads of interceptors. 2 of these are going to be 5-mans with a single side cannon, and 1 is a 10-man with double side cannon. And this is a new one. I know I've been running the 5-mans, and the 5-mans are great, but there is some stuff I've been wanting to try with a 10-man. A 10-man is these guys are very, 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 very fast. First of all, you have the fact that they can move 12 inches, auto advance 6, because the whole army auto advances 6. Then if I spend a command point on them, they count their weapons as assault, so they can shoot and then move afterwards. They wouldn't be able to charge after that factor, but they would be able to shoot and then move. So this squad is one that can really start to utilize CP as a resource for it over a 5-man. Again, a unit that can be picked up, dropped back down, and having it as a 10-man means that it can impact a little bit better than some of the 5-mans if I need to hit something and hit something a little bit harder. So I want to see how a 10-man feels in a different role. The other 2 5-mans will most likely be in Deep Strike and start the game in Deep Strike, since joining my Terminators as well, since they can land, shoot, and then move into a better position, whether it's behind enemy lines, bring it down. These guys are excellent for some of those backfield secondaries that are otherwise pretty difficult to achieve. This army can do this very, very well with them. So that is the list. So again, this army is built around secondaries. I do have 2 damage off of my Nemesis weapons, and we do have access to some strats to get like devastating wounds, but that's 2 command points. So that one's not going to be as effective as others. The purifiers are not in this list. Reason being, I wanted more MSU. This is meant to showcase the new cards, and it's going very MSU heavy. I've been very happy with my Grey Knights as of late. My list is getting slightly tweaked, but I'm probably going to keep it similar. Where before I had 5 Dreadknight chassis, I'm probably going to drop it down to 4 and use those extra points to maybe go into some of these resources that we're testing out here in this list. All in all, this is made to be able to cover the board and cover the board efficiently, especially with super resilient units, and be able to steal objectives, take objectives from the opponent. If you have something that is a low objective control value on an objective, I can land and take it away with a squad of interceptors. Then if you move up and try and eliminate the interceptors, I can bounce off the field. So this is going to be a lot of jab and jab and jet, jab and jet. And that's going to be the whole plan with the list, trying to keep it very defensive, get in, get out, score the points, and go home happy. That's the ideal. That's the plan with the list. And this is actually how I first started running Dreadknights early on in the edition. Friends of the channel may know this. At the very, very beginning of the edition, I got to be one of the first to actually record an undefeated GT win, excuse me, with the Dreadknights. And you can see that on the channel. I have a beautiful little mug that I got as a trophy from that. But not trying to go on the ego trip, this was the list I played. When Eldar was super dominant, couldn't get by them, how do we get around them? Well, just score with them. Yeah, I got my game and matchup into Eldar at that time when the Wraith Knight was just able to eliminate everything on the table. I drew at 100 points against Eldar. So it was, okay, you're going to score 100. Well, I'll see you there too. And at the end of that game, I literally had 3 models on the table, Castle and Crow and 2 Strike Marines. And that was it. But because I went second, I was able to score those endgame points, which gave me the 100-point tie into Eldar. Couldn't beat them, just join them. So looking at that and looking into these new missions, I'm very curious to try this. I may be a little bit overhauled. Maybe there's something here. Maybe I'm a little overhauled. I need to dial it back. We'll see. I want to, whenever I test out a theory on a list, I like to go all in on it at every angle possible, pick up all that data, and then bring it back and go, okay, what worked, what didn't, and see where it goes from there. Sometimes you get lucky and you get it right the first time, but I prefer just trying everything out there. Terminators are tried, true, and tested. Probably could switch them out for something else and test something else, but I feel like the Terminators are a huge backbone in this list. With the 10-man interceptor, may not exactly work out the way I wanted to, and those points might be better served into another 5-man squad of strike, or taking those points and going back over and trying to get the 10 purifiers with Crow back in there, just for how strong of an anti-infantry output that may be. But in this matchup, and with the style of the secondaries and the board control, when it came down to the 2, the Terminators do a lot better job of objective control and objective play than the purifiers do. The purifiers are simply a damage outlet. So for this game, the purifiers sat out for that reason. Again, later iterations, the purifiers may return because they are, much like the Terminators, they're something that I know works. We've seen them work. They know they work. We know they do damage. For now, let's look at this just scoring points, because if I can get up to 100 points, if I can score 100 points in a game, I just need to stop you from scoring 1 point. A lot of these missions, like Lane and I were looking at this, you need to score 8 points in secondaries every single turn minimal. You need an 8 average in order to score that 40. That's tough with these new cards. That's very, very tough. So with that being said, if I can consistently score 40 points and figure out how to play some of these primary games, especially with the MSU, the sticky objectives, the OC2 units, we could be looking towards a different style of Grey Knight lists that wins on the scoreboard instead of obliterating the opponents. And at the end of the game, at the end of it all, that could be a better list when going into other armies and other factions that come out in the future, come out in the game, things that may change, and being able to be prepared for maybe some lists that I don't normally see. That might be a better style. We'll see. All right, guys. Whew, rambled on a lot of it. I'm excited to play this thing. This is going to be fun. This is going to be interesting, and do all the Pariah Nexus and all the new craziness. No Imperial Knights climbing walls this game, but we'll see about that in the future. All right. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.